Hi everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Daz. This is I think it's my third live stream now, and we're going to do a lot more live stuff. I just think it's better to interact with people, get the comments in and everything, and see what everyone has to say. But I'm really happy to have a great guest who's been on before. I mean, I can't believe it's probably been about maybe 2 years or even 3, because I know, Paul, you came on like pretty early in our podcast, because this is our 4th year now, so it's just insane. But I've got Paul Salt, who is a presenter on BBC Radio Merseyside. There he is, there's his name, all in lights. But welcome back, mate. Lots to go through.
There is, yeah. I think it has been a while since I've been on, actually. I think I came on, first of all. Did you start this during the pandemic?
I did.
Yeah, so I think that was the first one. Then I think I came on again after that. But, you know, time gets away from you a little bit, doesn't it? But, yeah, what a season. I'm hoping if we're going to look back on the season, this isn't going to prove too depressing. I don't think it will be. I think we'll try and make it as upbeat as we possibly can.
Well, I mean, we have to, don't we? I mean, what's the point of just getting on here and being miserable and griping and all that? I leave that for other people. It's, you know, we got to celebrate what Klopp's given us in 9 years. I just think, you know, like we were talking off camera, you know, start of the season, I was in the pub, you know, with the mates. Who's going to win the league? Man City. Are we going to make top 4? I hope. Are we going to win a trophy? I hope. And we've done that. We've got top 4 and we've won a trophy. I mean, no other team from England yet has won a trophy apart from us. You know, I mean, we know the Man Cities are going to probably win the FA Cup and Premier League, but you know, that means nothing to us.
No, I think you're right. It's easy to forget where expectations were back in August, and we just come off the back of a really turbulent season where we miss out on qualifying for the Champions League. And I think the smart money there is on Klopp would have probably left had we qualified for the Champions League, but because he felt like there was unfinished business and he didn't feel he could leave the club, you know, not achieving the bare minimum in a way for him, he felt like he had to stay on. And I think that was a lot behind his thinking to carry on into this new season. But I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting a title challenge from Liverpool at all back in August. Realistically, I think 4th would have been and was a target. But don't forget, a lot of churn, a lot of change. You know, you're talking about a brand new midfield. And you're talking about a brand new midfield really, really sort of late on in the day, really, when you look at how late it was when the likes of Fabinho and Henderson left. So to expect, you know, everyone to just hit the ground running and for there to be a title challenge, I think was unrealistic. And it's important to keep reminding yourself of that when maybe you do get a bit down in the dumps about the fact we're going into the last weekend, you know, with unfortunately nothing to play for.
Yeah, you've got to look back, and you know, it was a whole midfield rebuild. 4 players that had never played in the Premier League, and then you add on the amount of injuries we had was insane to key players. Bringing in the youngsters, I never thought Conor Bradley would hit the ground running. You know, Bobby Clark's done fantastic. Dan's, when he's played, has done fantastic. You know, McConnell. We've had players, young lads, bedded in probably way too early, and the inconsistencies of basically our back 4 and our front 3. So when you look at all that and you see where we're at, and like you said, I didn't think we'd challenge. Most pundits didn't have us in the top 4. They had Man United, remember? It was Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I try and look on the bright side of things. I mean, some people will go, well, you have no, you know, if you don't have, like, you're challenging. you don't have much of a, like kind of a winning spirit. But sometimes you've got to look at the basics and gone, after last season, it was terrible. So we have progressed. Yeah, maybe it's one step back, but for me, we are where we are.
I think the thing, it's expectation, isn't it? And when you start the season well, just looking through some of the results, you look at our home games, we beat Bournemouth, albeit we conceded an early goal in that first game. And that's a real theme of the season, which even starts in the first home game. But we get a bit of momentum, albeit sometimes we're not always convincing. I remember that Fulham game at Anfield where if you remember, 4-3 right at the end, we were losing with a few minutes to go. But, as momentum increases, expectation increases. And I think when the injuries strike, we carry on. We win the Carabao Cup with a load of kids. And that only increases the expectation, doesn't it? So you've almost got this, it raises hopes because people are thinking, and I remember having conversations going, imagine when we get all the lads back. Imagine what they're going to be like then. We're playing with a bunch of kids and we're beating Chelsea in extra time in a cup final or whatever it may be. But the problem was it meant that certain players were absolutely run into the ground. You look at how McAllister played the other night, and I'm not having a go at him at all, but that wasn't very McAllister-like, just because I think he's knackered, really, because he's played so much football. So you've got players being run into the ground at the same time as there's this hope with the players that are coming back. But the players that are coming back then need time to get up to speed. So it's a perfect storm, really, isn't it, of players being knackered and players coming back and trying to get up to speed. And it results in a huge drop-off. It might be too simplistic to explain it away as that. But if you follow what I'm thinking there, I think that is broadly what happened and why we ended up going through, what it was. It was the form that fell off a cliff. It was a real slump, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, people are looking for somebody to blame. There's always somebody who's to blame. Nunes for not bagging, easy goals. Salah's not up to par. He's lost his pace. It just seems like the fan base is getting a bit toxic. Obviously you're on Twitter, so am I. If I didn't have a podcast, I wouldn't be anywhere near Twitter. I just wouldn't. There's just too many people that like to blame. It's a team game for me. It's just like you said, trying to have too many injuries and expecting these lads to hit the ground running when they're back. It was asking too much. I think some players came back way too early. I still think Trent's off of it. Sobozai has dropped off a cliff. Everybody was hailing him as his next Stevie G the first 4 months of the season, which was ridiculous. But this is the problem. People are setting these high standards. We are Liverpool Football Club and we should have high standards, but I just think the injuries derailed us, and it's taken these players time to come back. And like you said, for Maka, not just physically exhausted, he looks mentally like he's checked out. And that's not his fault, because he's been fit and he's been playing the number 6. Then he's been pushed up. Then he's not a number 6. I think we've all figured that out. And the poor lad was just, it's one of those where it's like, if you're in a Sunday league game, you probably just, if you're just that knackered, you just walk off the pitch, don't you? You say, I can't do this. But he's a professional and he tried. And yeah, it's just, my hat's off to the lads though, getting third. I'm again, start of the season, I didn't expect that. And again, I think also people saying Klopp kind of derailed us in January. Why didn't he wait till the end of the season? I mean, you're in media.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, well, it was going to come out in the media before and that's why Klopp and FSG decided to do what they did.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it was gonna get leaked. I'm sure that's the reason they did it. I think it is a bit simplistic to say that that's what's derailed us, because I'm sorry to not. You probably didn't think I was going to do a comparison here with Everton, but when you look at what happened with Everton, with the points deduction, actually, when Everton got the initial points deduction, they really rallied, played some really good football, got some really good results, and looked like they were going to be fine. And you could say the same when Klopp announced his decision. There was a period where Liverpool were really, really good and picking up really, really good results, won the Carabao Cup, as we've said, lots of other. Then they've hit this sticky patch. I personally think that has very little to do with Klopp's announcement and more to do with what we've already discussed. I think it's too easy to blame it on Klopp's announcement just because it's there. But I think the way human nature is and the way that the character that Klopp is, I think if you're a player for Klopp, you're going to want to win it even more if that's possible because of what he's announced, because of, there's no doubt. I mean, look, we've seen signs of friction with Salah, but taking that to one side for a moment, all or most of those players would have wanted to do it even more because of the relationship that they have with him. So I'm not sure I go along with how much it's derailed us, really.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just think, again, people are looking for somebody to blame, but to blame the manager that's given us so many moments is ridiculous, just because he comes out and he's human. I think we forget with footballers and top managers that they are actually human beings, and he looks knackered as well. You can see it. He's aged. I mean, we've all aged in the past 9 years. he just looks like he's aged, like 2 or 3 times more than what me or you. That's what's running a football club 365 days a year. Because on the off season, Klopp has a couple of weeks off, and he's back on it. And the leak was going to come, because as soon as he said that announcement, I'm sure FSG and whoever were looking into new managers. So the message is out there, then agents hear it. So it was bound to come out, and I really appreciate that. He did a little thing. I mean, it hurt because I thought it was a joke. I woke up and I got these pings on my phone. Yeah. And I'm like, Klopp's leaving, and I'm like, somebody's, having me on. And then, I watched the video, and it was like, why? But, and we're all Klopp fans, but, we're Liverpool fans first. But you just think, why would you want to leave this amazing club? I think at that time I didn't understand. It took me a while to actually understand, like, he is human. He has a family. He just had the grandbaby. So I totally understand where he's coming from. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't make it any easier.
No, I mean, he is. I'm sure this has been said before. He is the closest thing we're ever going to get to Bill Shankly over again, and he for our generation, for younger people as well. He is our Bill Shankly. I've had some of the best times of my Liverpool watching life with Klopp. Probably, I suppose really Rafa would be the one that would compare in terms of Istanbul and Cardiff and all that. But a league title, and it's weird because as much as he did win the league title, there is still a massive regret for me that it was during COVID, and it does feel a bit tainted. But it feels tainted for me as a fan who goes to every home game to not be there when we won the league title. And I feel really sorry for him for that, because there's always going to, he's never going to get that moment now where he can celebrate a league title with the fans. And that's why I think everyone's also so disappointed as well. Is it almost felt like if we did do it this year, it would have almost been a bit of compensation for the fact that, in 1920 we won it, but we couldn't celebrate it. Mm-hmm. And you're always going to have regrets. I think I look at his time as manager this season, and perhaps you start to microanalyze it a little bit because he's leaving. There have been decisions where you've gone, no, I'm not. He could have done that bit better. But you could say that about anyone. He even said, didn't he, the other day himself, he regrets not playing Harvey Elliott more, for example, as one example. And I regret him not playing Harvey Elliott a bit more. I think, particularly with, as you mentioned earlier on, the support, the form of Szoboszlai, I don't think is justified him starting games or even coming on in games at times. He really has been quite poor. But you look at Harvey Elliott and you think, wow, that's a kid who absolutely loves playing for Liverpool Football Club and is getting better and better. On Monday and in the Spurs game, I thought I don't like the way he makes mass substitutions. I don't know about you, but 4 subs, it's just too many. But against Spurs, we went to pieces when he made a load of changes. And you could say the same about the Villa game. So that's being really picky. I'm not, it's not really a criticism. Well, I suppose it is a criticism, but a very minor one. But I think, like you, the longer this has gone on, the more you've realised his time is up. I watch him from my seat on the Kop, and as you've seen when you watch the games, when you come here or when you watch him on telly, how animated he is, and the arms and gesticulating and giving the ref loads. The couple of games, not really, not the Spurs game, the Palace game, he was sat down. Sat down for a lot of that game. He never ever does that, and again, probably a minor thing, but I just think he's tired. And when you're tired, he's earned the right to pack in when he wants to pack in and get a proper send off, which you'll get on Sunday.
Yeah, that at Atlanta game away, he was sat on that little bench thing. You never see him, like you said, you just never see him sit down. And I think he and then the laughing and the smiling. People take that the wrong way. He's laughing and smiling because he's hurting on the inside. You can see it, and I just think people take that the wrong way. And he's 150% Liverpool Football Club. The man has changed this club so much to Brendan Rodgers, who was a totally different manager. There was this, after every match, it was character. I got tired of listening to that. With Klopp, it was real. Even his pressers I'll miss because he tells it like it is. Even the other day, it just, that's Klopp, through and through, coming on, late and then saying what he said. Who gives a... because he knows his time's up. I know you had one of your best moments with your dad for the Barca match, which is amazing. To watch that game. 3-0 down. Even the first match when we played him at the Nou Camp, we did really well. The scoreline didn't really show how we played. That was a messy masterclass. They had some luck, but I had a feeling we would beat them, not 4-0, but I had a feeling maybe 2-1 or 3-2, something like that. But you got to witness it. I was actually down the pub, and I was coming back home that day, so I was late getting to the airport because I was celebrating at the pub with everyone. But for you, that's got to be one of your best Klopp moments because you're with your dad as well.
Yeah, I think for Klopp moments, it is my best. I think it sounds probably obvious that it would be, but I think it's my best moment at Anfield, actually. I don't think... I was there for Chelsea in 2005, which was amazing because it was getting back to a European Cup final for the first time in 20 years. And the atmosphere, I don't think, has ever been bettered from Chelsea in 2005. But the sheer scale of the task To be 3-0 down against the famous Barcelona and turn it round. I don't think they'll ever be a night like it, really. Because you can't write stuff like that. You can't. I think that game. I think the Dortmund game was amazing. Everyone forgets about the Dortmund game, don't they? In the Europa League, another absolutely phenomenal comeback. And at the time, we were ranking that really high. But then he goes and does Barcelona, and I spoke to John Achterberg actually, who's also leaving a few weeks ago, and I said to him, "Well, what was Klopp saying?" And he just said he just makes you believe. In some cases, you're better than you are. He makes you believe that you can achieve anything. And the quote was, he said to the players, "I believe you can do this because it's you." As if to say, no other set of players can do this, but you can do this. And Achterberg just said, everyone sort of sits there and takes it in. And if it hadn't happened, you would have gone, well, what a load of nonsense that is, But he said it, and it works. And I don't think that's something that can be taught, can it? That kind of motivational kind of quality that he has, and the way he can, whether you're an ordinary Joe in the street or whether you're a multi-million-pound footballer, he can have the same impact on you. Again, I'll go back to it. Shankly had that. Shankly would say to players, they're all in the away dressing room there, and they're trembling at the thought of facing you. And again, it gets in their heads. And Klopp has it. You can't buy that, can you?
No, and I think that's his famous saying, "Turn doubters into believers," and he did. And I think that's really why we thought this would be the fairy tale ending, that these players would run through brick walls. I do it like an analogy for marathon runners. We ran into that brick wall and we couldn't get over it, under it, round it, or through it. It just stopped us. And I think as fans we kept believing up until a certain point, but I can't imagine just being in so many competitions and you've got all this pressure. And I hate to say it, but it really is that Man United match, the FA Cup. It really did something to us. We should have put them to the sword because come on, they are absolute shite. They really are. And we've seen throughout the season how bad they are, and then you've got. It doesn't matter. I think we do this every single season with United, especially after beating them 5-0, 7-0. On paper, we should be absolutely smashing them, but because it's United, we've not done very good at Old Trafford anyway over the years. But it just felt like the lads left that pitch, everybody's head was hanging. And, even Virgil was just, they were in shock. And I think that shock just led to the next game, and then the next game, and the next game.
The United FA Cup game, I think, is the turning point if you're gonna put it like that. I was at that game as well. And I remember turning to my mate and saying, we need another one here, as we're trying to walk the ball into the net. And I've not seen our fans, and when I say our fans, I mean match-going fans rather than people on Twitter. I'm not saying you can't be a fan if you're on Twitter, but match-going fans be so angry leaving a stadium as they were that day, because to be 3-2 up and then to lose a game 4-3 after extra time is just unforgivable, really. And it was a bit of arrogance there. And that was one of the few games where I think you could say that they got it wrong from a sort of mentality point of view. They got it wrong leaving Conor Bradley back on his own for the winner. They just got it wrong. But ever since then, just looking at the games there, so you had that game. We then followed up with Brighton at home and Sheffield United at home, where we won both of those games, but it wasn't convincing, was it? It wasn't quite what we were expecting, and we were just about getting over the line. And then after that, we had United again in the league, and it was almost history repeating itself. You're right. I mean, very annoying, because how you can't beat a team like that, and that's what's cost us. It's games like that where you go, well, we drew with them at home, we drew with them away. There's 4 more points for a start. Never mind, not beating Crystal Palace before you get onto any of that. Just look at that, because Manchester United are bad. They're really bad, but it's still Manchester United. And for Liverpool, a bit like playing, Liverpool playing Manchester United is different to a lot of other teams playing Manchester United. The same as Liverpool playing Everton is different to a lot of teams playing Everton. And so it's proved really this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just questioned the decision making in that United FA Cup game. We're 20 seconds away from probably penalties, and we put everyone up. And I'm going, like you said, leaving just Bradley by himself. I'm going, what are we doing? Like, obviously, Klopp's going, let's try and get the winner, but it just left us bare. And but if it wasn't for the mix-up between Endo and Elliott, that wouldn't have happened either. It was just one of those where they had a mix-up, and then they scored. But I just thought like that would have spurred us on a bit more. But like you said, that the Brighton and Sheffield games were just dross to watch. I mean, in a title-winning season, you get the dirty games, out the way, and they were dirty. I mean, I can't imagine being there, because I was watching on telly, just going. I mean, I was making a cup of tea, I was doing the laundry. It just wasn't like as what I thought it would be. But we still got the 3 points, so I was like, okay, we're back on it. But then, the United game. So it's like we just couldn't get past them, and it's infuriating because it's United. Like a draw does feel like a loss. And I also thought Virgil should have just gone a point, because he was like, I'm disappointed, but I just thought maybe you should have gone, a point at Old Trafford isn't bad, and kind of go on from there. But obviously we didn't. I think the Everton loss was just a massive kick in the. that was just awful. I mean, I just thought, if we had a James Milner who could have come on and put their foot in and give some physical presence in our midfield. I think that's what I've said it again. I love the technicality of our players, but I also want somebody who's a bruiser. I want somebody who can get on that pitch and kind of, no pun intended, but like stamp their authority. Be physical, get put a little foot in to the player. I just think we've kind of lost that.
I think the Milner point's interesting, actually. Just signing a new contract for Brighton, by the way, yesterday, which is just mad. But the Milner point's interesting because I think that going into the season, Klopp assumed that Henderson was staying.
Mm-hmm.
And Henderson, part of the problem with Henderson was I don't think he thought he was going to get that many games. And I think the plan for Henderson might have been, like we saw the other night with the Villa game, like you mentioned there about, whether it be Man United or Everton, wherever it is, when players are getting tired, say McAllister's knackered on Monday, if you've got Henderson on the bench to bring on for 20 minutes and literally just tie the midfield up, not, everyone used to go mental about his square passes all the time and just keeping the ball safe. But actually, when you're 3-1 up at Aston Villa with, only 15 minutes left, whatever it is, that's what you need. And that's what we just didn't have. We haven't got. The midfield's a really interesting one in that everyone was so enthused about it at the start of the season and how good it was. And it's a new midfield, all we discussed before. And now at the end of the season, everyone's kind of like, oh, bloody hell, this midfield. Slot's going to have to do something about this midfield. And it really has changed. But it's just for me, when I look at that team now, there's a bit of a lack of nous, a bit of a lack of kind of match play, if for what knowing how to do the simple things, but do them well. Not being a dickhead, really, is what I'm saying. But because there's been dickhead moments, like we've discussed with Man United away again on Monday. McAllister, because he's tired, loses possession in the wrong kind of area of the field. Don't lose the ball there. Just don't lose it there. And that makes a massive difference. So I think we've been shown up as well for perhaps having a little bit of a lack of experience in the central area. And when you look at what City and Arsenal have had, Declan Rice, huge difference for City, for Arsenal. City, obviously, Rodri. We haven't really had that, have we?
No. I mean, since, Fabinho, lost his legs, which is mad, It's just mad to think the lad was doing so well for us, and then all of a sudden he's got no legs. He's stuck in treacle. But he was the same. He'd get his foot stuck in. But like Julian just said, Villa have McGinn. They have a player who gets stuck in and does the dirty work, and I think that's what we've got to look for. I think that's up to the next manager to decide. But so quick, I want to go just your thoughts on what Klopp has meant to you.
God, what a question that is. He's meant the rebirth of the club, I think, and to a certain extent, as a fan, because let's be honest, we've had our moments. I grew up in the 1980s, so I grew up when Liverpool were the best team in the country, the best team in Europe, whatever, and then obviously Kenny left, and there's parallels with Klopp and Kenny and leaving, and Kenny being burnt out, albeit for differing reasons, and what happened there. So Kenny leaves, Souness comes in, everyone's made up, and it doesn't work. And we then, with the odd bright spot, have really some really hard seasons. A lot of slumps, a lot of false hope. You get Istanbul, you get Rafa, you get all of that, but then you get Hodgson. And when Roger, toward the end of Rodgers' period in charge, it felt horrendous. Do you remember that game at Stoke, the 6-1 at Stoke and all that? And he probably should have gone then. So Klopp came in at a pretty low point, and we'd all seen what he'd done at Dortmund. And I don't think anyone was like, "Oh, well, he won't be very good." Everyone had huge expectation, but to turn that expectation into reality, to win a league title and a Champions League and all the other trophies, when you've got Manchester City to deal with, and also to come so very close on two other occasions, I think for me, he will be the greatest Liverpool manager of my Liverpool supporting life. I don't think, even however long I'm on this earth for from here, I don't see anyone bettering him, because the landscape of football has changed so much. And Shankly did that for Liverpool back in the 60s. Paisley carried it on. It's even harder to do that now. So to achieve what he's achieved, he's given me some of the best days of my life. We mentioned Barcelona, beating Man United 7-0. Come on. But I never would have thought I'd ever be there to witness that. FA Cup final, but even the defeats, that Europa League final when we lost in Basel, it's just a great day, because he'd only been there a few months, and we had that belief back. So he gave the fans belief, he gave the players belief, and he actually turned it into reality, I think. Yeah,
I think right after Kiev, when we lost in the Champions League final, I read he basically told the lads, stop moping, we'll come back, and we did. We won the Champions League again, we won the league, but it's down to even though we lost to Real Madrid in Paris, we were this close. I mean, it took a world-class goalkeeper to stop us. He had some brilliant saves, and then just one ball that looked like it was going across the park, and then it went through Virgil's legs. So it's just like these little things, but on the whole, you're just like the man has just given so much, and I'll say this: he's given it to the city, to the people. And I think that's what a lot of like other supporters don't understand, like they were laughing, like, if we would have done a parade, with the League Cup, I thought it would have been a little cringy to do that. But I understood, like I spoke to Dan Morgan the other day, and he kind of put it to the point where he was like, well, there's so many people in Liverpool and throughout the world that can't get tickets to Anfield. So he was like, I understand them wanting, when they were thinking about doing a parade so you can say bye to Jurgen. So that kind of, I understood that part. But other clubs don't understand Klopp, they're all like, well, he's only won one league title in 9 years. I don't care. I don't really care what other clubs, other supporters think of us. We've always like what was it, 2 seasons ago, all fans were saying, please, any other team win the league, not these Scousers. That's why I've got no thoughts about Arsenal not winning. I could care less. Again, we've spoken about it. City have got the charges, whether they stick or not. They're tainted for me. But for me, Klopp has given everything. For 9 years, he's given everything. Like you said, he's come in to a team that was a shambles, and he's built it up to a team we're back on our perch, 100%.
I think it's all right, people saying, oh, he's only won one league title, but don't forget we haven't won the league for 30 years. So actually, one league title is pretty good going. We'd had some real close ones. Like, you look at 13-14 under Rodgers, which actually was a brilliant season to be a fan because the football was just off its head. But in the end, they couldn't get over the line. And I think some of that was mentality. And it makes you wonder if in 13-14 we'd have had Jurgen Klopp as the manager. I'm pretty damn sure we would have won that league. And that's the difference between Brendan Rodgers and Jurgen Klopp, and Jurgen Klopp and a lot of other managers. Is it's going back to what we said about the speech before the Barcelona game and the mentality and the belief that he built into the players. I think he would have done that in 13-14. It's all if, buts and maybes. But I look, and people talk as well. The other thing that really annoys me is people talk about, has this season in any way tarnished his legacy? Are you kidding me? Are you upset? How can it tarnish his legacy? Let's just take a step back and think. He's finished third with a team we didn't think would finish third anyway. He's won another League Cup. He's at times still played really, really good football, albeit not with his best team. It's not as good as obviously the team that did win the league, but he's still given us so many moments of pleasure. For any other team, they'd probably have a bus parade, if they finished third and won the League Cup. Come on, how can that to me is people being really entitled. If they think finishing third and winning the League Cup tarnishes this man's legacy, then I think you need to get a grip, because that is nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, I just think it's I'll what's his name, Abong Lahore from Talk Sport. I've just never heard so much crap come out of someone's mouth. It's shock value. That's what it is. A lot of people like to, throw it out there. Klopp's only won this amount in 9 years. That's not very good. But I'll tell you what, Fergie in his first, 8 to 10 years, won nothing.
Yeah, he won. He certainly for the first 4. The FA Cup in 1990 saved him his job, and the FA Cup was obviously bigger then. I mean, whether it saves Ten Hag, but it and then 3 years later he wins the league. So it took him 7 years to win the title. I think off the top of my head, 7 or 8. So yeah, you wouldn't get that now, would you? You just wouldn't get that now, And Klopp does it within 5. and a Champions League within 4. You know, again, seven trophies in 9 years, and countless other finals. And there was all that narrative, oh, we can't win a final. You remember that, you know, because he'd also had the disappointment with Dortmund and all that. So he's whenever people have questioned him, really, he's kind of proved them wrong anyway. And he never seemed to let it get to him. You know, oh, we've lost a final, move on to the next one. We'll do it next time, and they did.
Yeah, well, it's just like, you know, serial bottlers. It's it's, you know, people that really don't understand this club, and it does get on my nerves. But you know, I don't. A couple of years ago, I'd be on Twitter replying to everyone who ever questions Klopp or Liverpool. But now I know better. I've kind of grown on my Twitter roots that it's just not worth getting on there and having an online argument with keyboard warriors. It's just ridiculous. But I wanted to also bring some positives. Who's your player of the season? I know we've got Wolves to go, but I mean, you know, that's kind of like a swan song for you know, a lot of the players. But who has been your player of the season?
It's a funny one. I think there's definitely an honourable mention a few honourable mentions. I think Joe Gomez has been absolutely fantastic, and I'll really, really be sorry if he goes. You know, he's given a lot of good service to the club, to, you know, longest serving player and all that, and also his versatility has been a real asset this season. When you look at right back, left back, centre mid at times, centre half, although he, you know, I think he probably would like to play a bit more there. But you know, a player like that, I think we would really, really miss. So I hope he stays, and I think he's been great. I will give McAllister a mention, because McAllister came in, and as much as there was a lot of hype about Szoboszlai, there was a lot of negativity about McAllister. But McAllister he was playing out of position. He'd been used to playing in a kind of double pivot with Caicedo at Brighton, so he was on his own. And I think as the season's gone on, he's proven all those doubters wrong, really. And his distribution at times, you know, it creates so many opportunities for front players. So I think I'd definitely give him a mention. It's really difficult because there's been so many injuries. So you sort of go, oh, well, I could say him, but then he was out for a long period of time. I think I would go for Van Dijk.
Really?
Yeah. The reason being that I think at the end of last season, people had absolutely written him off and said, you know, he's not the player he was. He's lost his pace. He's kind of lost his reading of the game. And all that kind of thing. And I think, you know, bear in mind, he has lost a little bit of his pace, but I actually think this season his reading of the game has got a bit better. If anything, I think he reads the game so well. He carried the team when there were a lot of injuries. You look at the League Cup final. We don't win the League Cup without Virgil van Dijk for obvious reasons, but he was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, you could say there's maybe a bit of a question mark over, is he captain material? I think that is a debate that perhaps does need to be had, just in terms of cajoling the players a little bit more. But I think for consistency, I think Van Dijk's been absolutely brilliant. So I think, put me on the spot, I think I'm going to go for Van Dijk. What about you?
I think Maka for me.
The only reason McAllister, I think he did have a slow start. I'm not saying I doubted him, but I think he's had a slow start and he's struggling a bit at the end and had a very good middle. I think Van Dijk's had a bit more consistency throughout the whole of the season, would be why I'd maybe give it to him ahead of McAllister.
I think for me, for Maka, like, it was Endo helping him. You know, as I've said, like, Maka's not a number 6. He was struggling at the start of the season, but I think once Endo got up to par with the Premier League, he helped Maka, because obviously Maka could push forward, and I just love the lad. I love how he plays, and I mean, I still think, for me, that's goal of the season that he scored Even though Harvey's one is pretty close, just because Harvey was just, I don't know how he got his leg wrapped around that ball to put it in the back of the net, but Maka was what, like 35 yards out. That's my goal of the season. But I mean, for Virgil, I'm with you. Like he's been consistent, but I'm with you on the needs to be a talk about the captaincy. I've talked with my mate on the pod, Julian, about this. For me, like Robbo, I thought would actually get it, because he's not just because he's Scottish, but he's loud. He just seems to motivate people. Virgil just seems to be kind of the laid back kind of character. I mean, obviously, both myself and you and everyone else, we're not in that changing room, so we're not on the training pitch, so we don't really know like how he is. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Maka, I would probably say Virgil as well. What's your goal of the season then?
Well, I'm gonna go for one, not necessarily that you would say is pleasing on the eye. I'm gonna go for Van Dijk at Wembley, purely because of the joy that it gave everyone, really. And I'm with Klopp again. I never take for granted about being there. I think it's even more emotional being there and seeing it. And I was actually working that day, so I did the press conference with Klopp afterwards, and he just came in and he sat down, and you could see beaming smile on his face, and he just said, my most special victory, never mind Champions League, whatever, my most special victory. And to do, because it was just, I'm going back to, could many other managers have done that? I'm not sure they could. It was just bonkers when you look at the players Chelsea had, and you look at, the players that Liverpool had by the end of the game, and then all the gags. I'm sure you got them on WhatsApp as well, as about the Liverpool team going into school the next day and all that kind of stuff. So purely for what it meant, I think I am going to go for Van Dijk in the League Cup final. Just I think the best day of the season, got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love that too. That I think it was even better because the first one was chalked off because Endo blocked someone. I didn't think you weren't allowed to block someone in football. Arsenal do it on a regular basis. Ben White, number one blocker in the Premier League, but because I thought the first one was a brilliant header by Virgil with the Endo block, and I didn't understand why it didn't stand. But yeah, I mean, it's another great moment in Liverpool history. I think we deserved to beat Chelsea that day. I think we were the better team. Even with the young lads on, we just had that energy. Bobby Clark was fantastic. Dan's when he came on. We've just got, I think, a great future to look forward to. We've just got the old saying, like, we've had so many moments that I think we haven't really realised what Klopp has really given to this club, and I think it'll really hit us on Sunday. I'm sure you'll be at the game. Just seeing the picture yesterday with him standing on the halfway line had me in knots. Like, I'm an emotional fella anyway, but like, it's just, I mean, there's some people going, again, they don't just get over it. He's a great manager. You move on. We've had many a good manager but for me, I was too young, obviously, for Shankly. I'm obviously a 70s kid as well, grew up in the 80s, so I got to see, the Paisley sides. But I wasn't connected like I am to Klopp. You know, I've watched games. You know, obviously I've been back home to watch the games, but I've also spent games with me girls watching on the telly, and they see how, you know, how I am emotional, and they scream and shout Klopp's name, and you know that's what I'm going to miss the most. And it is going to be tough on Sunday. That you know, I'm sure the supporters are going to give him one hell of a send off on Sunday, and I'm glad. Obviously, there's no parade, but he gets to do it at the M&S Arena, so 9,000 other people can actually, you know, give him another send off. But yeah, it's going to be weird because, you know, obviously I'm from Formby, so that's where he lives, and you know, all me sister and me mates are like, you know, his van's already packed. We've been watching him like the removal services, so that's going to be strange not seeing him around Formby anymore. But you know, we've had so many dreams come true, so I can't thank him enough. And I'll definitely, because there's so much I want to talk about. You know, I want to talk about like the ifs and buts of, you know, who should stay, who should go. Obviously, Arne Slot is coming in, but that's for another podcast, and I'd love to have you back on for that. This is about Klopp. This is about, you know, the players that we have now. Any last thoughts on this great football club?
Yeah, loads actually. I mean, while we were discussing the goal of the season, I think an honourable mention actually for the goal of the season. And we've not mentioned him too much for Conor Bradley's goal against Chelsea, which I enjoyed so much, again, because of the context of it, I think, as well, you know, around that time with his dad and all that kind of thing. And I do think there's a lot to be optimistic about going forward. I don't, you know, there's no way Klopp's leaving this in a mess. He's leaving it in brilliant nick. And you know, assuming it is Slot as it will be, it's a case of tweaking it, and it's a case of a fresh set of eyes. I think it's a case of the model of the football club changing a little bit as well. So, because to me, Klopp, and this is again why everyone loves him, I think Klopp is an old school manager, really, isn't he? He takes charge of so much that most managers or coaches, as they're called now, don't. He, you know, it kind of a bit like what in the end what they criticised Wenger for at Arsenal, which was, you know, if there was a new sign going up outside the Emirates, Wenger wanted to know about it, and I think Klopp had that all-encompassing power, and that's why he had such an influence on so many people. I think it will change. I think Slot, you know, he's going to be the head coach. Not the manager, which is a subtle difference, but an important one, because I think he will literally be the one on the training field, and you'll have the likes of Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards above him having a lot more say on players. So it could be if Slot says, I need a holding midfielder, they'll go, right, we found you three, which one do you like, rather than him having to scour through trying to find players. So it's interesting that a lot of them are now coming back that were with the club before. You know, that is quite interesting. But I think it'll be a new way of working, and I think it will take time. I think it will, you know, I don't necessarily think it's going to be a miracle. It'll just happen just like that, you know. But I do think that it's about tweaking, and it's about fine tuning really going forward.
All right, let me put this to you. If Gomez scores on the last against Wolves, is that going to be goal of the season?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like, if we're 3-0 up and we get a penalty, I think the lad deserves to take it. I just do.
I don't know whether I could. I don't know whether I could stand the tension. Do you know what? That I'd take that as long as people in the crowd stop shouting "shoot" whenever he gets the ball. I've seen grown men having full-on arguments in the COP about this because someone said it and someone else has gone, "Will you shut up, will you?" Because it is really irritating, and it needs to stop. And maybe, and if he scores, it would stop. So everyone's a winner, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I heard it on the telly, and I'm just like, come on, please. That's 100% cringy. But I hope he scores. I hope we leave Klopp with a win, which I think we will. I just think Wolves are already checked out.
Yeah.
So if we can just get a win, send him on his way. Avida saying thank you, Jurgen Klopp. That's all we can do. But yeah, it's been great having you on, Paul. And like I said, I'd definitely like to bring you back on, and because there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, contracts with Virgil, Mo, Trent, they're huge. Also bit of rumor the Saudis want to come in for Alisson, which you got to have a good laugh at that. I doubt a top goalkeeper like Alisson would want to go to Saudi Arabia when we've just got back in the Champions League. It's just more nonsense. But that's for another podcast, which we'll discuss. But again, where can people find you?
So I'm on BBC Radio Merseyside 6 till 8 in the evening UK time. So I'll let you try and work out what the time is with you. We do like a 2-hour sports show, and you can get that if you go to BBC Sounds, the BBC Sounds app. Then you can listen to that wherever you are in on planet Earth. So we do that, and it's obviously analysing Liverpool until the cows come home, really. And we have lots of guests. As I said, I had John Achterberg in last week. Lots of former players, lots of fans. You'll have to come on yourself one day as well.
That'd be time difference, which isn't bad, because I mean, you said you do it 6 p.m, right?
Yeah,
so it's only noon here. So
but yeah, we're on every night doing that, and we are. If you're listening to this or watching this, I'm sure you're a Red. We also do Everton as well, and Tranmere and Marine and Southport and all those clubs as well. So just Merseyside sport on the whole, really. It's good fun.
Man, Marine have had a season, haven't they?
Well, so where I'm sitting now is in my kitchen, and I am about a 7-minute walk to Marine's ground. So I take my son to Marine quite often, and we went to the playoff final at Macclesfield the other week, and that was just a fantastic day. You've been from Formby; it's only down the road from Crosby as well. They're just a great club. They're a great club. It's a great community club, and they're getting crowds of anything up to 2,000 now. It's a real success story.
Yeah, that's great for the community. I like what Mark just said. So Gomez scores goal of the decade.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether Mark's old enough to remember Rob Jones.
Oh, he is.
Back in the day, I used to have £1 on Rob Jones to score the first goal every single game. If I'd saved all that money, think where I'd be now, But he never scored, so maybe Gomez can.
Well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, I'll bring you back on probably in the next couple of weeks, and because I'm sure slots probably going to get announced next week, I would think. And we go from there and see what the game plan is. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Sorry, it's been again 3 years. Don't make it 3 more years.
I try not to. Thanks for having me on anyway.
Please, thanks everyone for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to all our socials and YouTube channel. Also, some great merchandise from Up the Reds. There's a 10% discount code, ATX Red. So go check them out. Until next time, we'll see you later.